Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Survivor Becomes a Dungeon. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 104, Survivor Point of View. The smell of wood smoke hits my nose, and I'm suddenly reminded to tend the fire. The crackling embers pricked my ears as I grabbed another log and carefully leaned it into the rest of the burning wood. I could vaguely smell the food being cooked in flames, from the potatoes wrapped in foil and a pair of Dutch ovens with charcoal laid over the lids. Using a nearby stick, I pointlessly poke at the fire before setting the stick aside, and my eyes begin to wander. I spot several similar-looking fireplaces, the others in the caravan tending to their fires as the night goes on. I see smiles on faces here and there. They are relaxed, calm, and almost happy despite everything that's happened in the last week. There are too many people, we have too many vehicles as well, and a caravan this big can't reliably be protected. We are only fortunate enough to have come this far as we have thanks to the combined efforts of my family's private security team, along with some AWOL soldiers that we came across and let join us. We've been sticking to the back roads and countryside to avoid crossing too many other people and avoid coming across more than of those freaks. So far, we've been successful in both endeavors. But all these vehicles need fuel, and we're going to need to hit up a gas station or two real soon if we intend on keeping all these vehicles going. Most of these people haven't seen what the rest of us have seen, and despite being a week into the apocalypse, over half of these people have yet to even hold a gun in self-defense. I doubt most of them could be relied on to pull the trigger if the crap hit the fan. I pity them. All these adults, people twice my age, and most of them can't be trusted to save their own lives, let alone the lives of their own families and those around them. Do you regret saving them, putting your own life on the line so that they can still smile? Of course not. I made my choice, and I'm going to stand by it. Even in practice, it would be better for me to work alone or in a small group. I was in a place where I could do something to help, so I did. Am I stressing about what needs to be done now that I've made the choice? Sure. But I don't regret it, I reply, without really thinking about it too much. Wait a minute. I don't think I recognize that feminine voice, now that I think about it. I don't think I even heard the voice speak out loud, funny enough. I focus more on the moment, looking around only to find that I'm alone. Did I imagine it? Or am I trying to rationalize and justify my actions to myself? Do I just need some sleep? Yeah, that's likely. Before I can think about it too much, I hear footsteps crunching through the dirt and patches of grass nearby. Looking over, I spot a pair of women I don't think I'd recognize. They look like they just stepped off a movie set, with all those weird special effects, makeup, and costumes. I mean, one of them is wearing robes, not to mention the funny-looking ears. Though that's not even considering the other woman with that over-the-top feather effect and wings. That's all a bit much, don't you think? It's hardly time to be playing with makeup and costumes. The women smile and chuckle a bit as they join me by the fire, the one with wings sitting on a stool that was left by one of the others, while the woman with the robes took a seat in the fold-out chair that was across from me on the other end of the fire. The winged woman spoke up. You're a hard man to find, V.R.E. I know this is your mind, but please take it easier on us, she mused kindly, offering me a smile as she picked up my stick and used it to poke at the fire. Well, it is his very first dream walk, not to mention he's viewing his own mind. Let's just be grateful we found him in the timely fashion, the other woman with the odd ears said, before looking over at me. It seems you're still not aware of yourself, V.R.E. You need to focus. This is a memory. You've already lived this before. What sort of crap are you spouting, miss? I may be tired and hearing voices, but I know for a fact that I'm awake. If not a bit tired, I admit, glancing between the two of them. I am awake, right? I mean, I don't think I recognize either of these women. They seem to know me by name after all. My name. But V.R.E. Was that the name I've always had? It sure is an odd-sounding name, but I do think it's mine. The woman with the odd ears looks at me curiously before sharing a look with the woman with wings. After another moment, she looked back at me again and seemed to try and find her words before speaking up. You're hearing voices, but in this memory, you're left alone with your thoughts for at least another 20 minutes, and then your parents come over to speak to you about the plan for the next town over to get fuel and more food. You don't say a word, you don't speak to anyone. You were just thinking about how you pity the others who don't know how to defend themselves, and when you were going to think about how hungry you are and wonder when the food was going to be done, she explained rather methodically. Now that you mention it, I am rather hungry. I wonder when the... Wait a minute. I can't help but scowl a bit as I look between the two women sitting up in my seat. Now I don't know what sort of tricks you are pulling, but I don't quite appreciate your brand of humor. The winged woman looked over to the woman with odd ears before glancing back at me. I think he's too tied into this moment. What should we do? I moved to stand. Something about these women feel odd. I mean, I know them, don't I? But at the same time, it feels like something isn't right. Something feels wrong, and my head is starting to throb. As I moved, the woman with the odd ears seemed to vanish before appearing right next to me and grabbing my shoulder, pushing me back into my seat. Vidmore, you must not leave this spot. You're not in control of your frame of mind. If you try to act beyond the scope of this current memory, while you're not fully aware of yourself, you might lose the memory outright, or not. I must admit I'm still uncertain in regards to how all of this affects dungeon calls. Once I sat back down, the headache seemed to fade almost immediately. Taking a moment to consider how I'm feeling, I glanced between the two women before sighing softly. Okay, let's say I believe you. What do I need to do? The woman with the odd ears smiled with relief as she pulled away and tapped her chin thoughtfully before snapping her fingers with a smile. I need you to focus on a different memory, something stronger and more distinct than this random point in your life. Random? This is the second time that we've been able to properly rest ever since we got out of Seattle. I hardly think this is just a random point in my life. I can't help but feel more than a little indignant by her comment. Sure, I may have watched her teleport before my very eyes, but this is my life. The woman with the odd ears sighed softly before shaking her head. But Maury, in the scope of the myriad of experiences you've gone through, the many lives that you've changed for the better and for the worse, the lives that you saved and the lives that you've ended, this very moment of you poking potatoes wrapped in foil with a half-burnt stick is very much just a random point. Ah, well, when she puts it like that, she says it's all with such certainty, too. Do I really affect so many people? Isn't it bad luck or a paradox to tell me this? Won't it change the future now that I know some of it? The woman with the wings chuckles at me, speaking out as she flashes a smile. It's not like we can change anything about your life. Again, you've already lived all of this. This is merely a memory. At that moment, the woman with odd ears nods in agreement, before looking me over again. We had an unfortunate encounter with an awfully emotional memory of yours. You should know the one I speak of. You retreated into your mind after the experience, and it took us quite some time to try and find you again. We're doing our utmost to safely navigate you through all of this, but you must work with us. You have to be the one to walk out of your own mind with us, she explained with such profound somberness, her blue and green eyes gazing deep into my eyes. All right. You said I need to focus on a memory. What should I focus on? Something about what they're saying is starting to make some sort of strange sense, and I get the feeling that I can trust these women despite how odd they look. These two women share a look, though the one with the odd ears has a pained expression as she then looks back at me. We need you to face the memory that caused you to retreat so far back into your mind. You were strong enough to live through it before, and I'm sure you can do it again, she expressed as gentle as she could. I looked between the two again, and I couldn't help but chuckle a bit as my nerves started to get to me. What sort of horrible thing could it have been? Was I tortured or something? See some sort of messed up, gruesome gore and death? Did I torture someone? Honestly, you're making it sound like this was some awful thing that ruined me. Was it my parents? Were they killed in some sort of brutal way, perhaps? I couldn't think of anything worse. What could it have possibly been that could make me regress or whatever? Once again, the two women shared a look, and the woman with the odd ears spoke up once more. You killed your beloved, she said after a few moments, letting that statement hang in the air. My beloved? Me? I fell in love with someone and then killed them. That's what traumatized me so much I retreated into my mind. What sort of wimp am I? That's ridiculous. Who did I fall in love with? I can't believe that I would waste time with something like love when the world is going to shit like this. I scoffed at the notion of that. The woman with the odd ears only smiles at that. You truly used to be rather closed-hearted and emotionally detached, but even then, you still put your neck out and helped others despite yourself. She then leaned back in the fold-out chair as she watched the winged woman poke the fire some more. You fell in love with Skylar. It was a slow process at first, and ultimately you became the best of friends. She was your confidant, and one person in the whole world you truly trusted with everything. Your deepest thoughts and fears, your hopes and plans for the future. She knew you for who you truly were, and not the front you put up for the others who looked at you for guidance and protection.
Skylar, that albino tomboy, I mean, she's cute and all, but that's ridiculous. Again, I don't have the time for something like love. But, why do I believe you?
Just thinking about the girl again is causing my chest to hurt, and not just a quick spike of pain, but a sort of deep, dull throbbing that weighs heavily on me. You killed her, and afterward you stopped caring whether or not you lived or died. You took on some more risks, did more dangerous work, and became even more cruel to those across you, she explained. And I could tell that she was being as honest with me as she could, a sentiment that I could appreciate. My chest still hurts, and I take my time in trying to gather my thoughts.
Why is this happening? What was I doing in my memories? If everything I've heard is true and none of this is real, then what am I doing here?
The winged woman piped up at that. You were worried about how open your memories were to others, so she was teaching you how to make your mind more secure to those bound to you, and I was practicing a more advanced form of dreamwalking using your mind, with your permission, of course. The woman with odd ears nodded and continued down the thread. We were following your experiences from before you died. You saw Skylar again, and while you were able to keep moving on without lingering on your memories of her, that all changed when we came across the day of Skylar's death. Despite all the things you did after that day, it was that experience that affected you the most. Your heart wasn't ready to see that day again, and I don't believe that you have ever really processed it in the first place.
Am I really that pathetic of a man?
I don't believe that I could ever be that weak. I've already seen so much death and tragedy. I've already had to kill people who didn't deserve it. To think that I couldn't recover after killing someone else, and that would affect me so much. The woman with the odd ears shook her head at that. Vedmari, you are far from being a pathetic man. You may not remember it now, but you are one of the strongest humans I know. You've suffered greatly, yet you still show compassion despite your broken heart. You won't be alone this time. We are here to help you. Just think of Skylar, and your mind will lead you back to that memory. Close your eyes and listen to my voice. I do as I'm told. Something about this feels familiar, and even as the woman speaks, I can feel her growing more distant and faint. Vedmari, point of view. My eyes opened, and I find myself in a forest. The smell of grass and trees tickle my nose as I take in a deep breath of refreshing scent. Looking myself over, I feel myself again as my eyes wander the tree line. Damn, that was something, I say to nobody in particular as I start walking forward, doing my best to collect my thoughts until I spotted a doorway standing in the middle of a clearing. I walk around it, looking it over. It's just a plain wooden door with a frame, a handle, and hinges. Despite that, I can feel my stomach turning in knots at what I know lies behind it. Before I can linger on my nerves for too long, I hear the crunching of grass and leaves coming from behind me, and I immediately know who it is.
Hey, you two! Thanks for your help earlier,
I say as I looked over the Revire and Rita, flashing them a small, if not sheepish, smile. Rita, for her part, looks rather worn out. The Revire appeared no worse for wear as she bobbed her head in response. You're welcome, Vedmari. We're glad to see that you've managed to make it back here. How do you feel? She asked as she came up beside me, placing a hand on my shoulder while looking me over.
I don't know how I feel. I don't think I'm ready to face what's on the other side of this door,
I admit as I glanced at the door handle, my hand twitching at the thought of grabbing it. I'm doing all right too, just in case anyone cares, Rita mentions while she flares her wings while stretching before she's sighing softly. Glancing between the two of them, I get the feeling that I'm missing something here.
Are you two all right?
I ask, hoping for some clarification. Revire simply smiled a bit more as she nodded again. Yes, we're doing all right. I believe Rita may not be as used to dreamwalking for as long as we have been at this point. Then raised some alarms as I stood a little straighter.
Wait, how long have we been dreamwalking?
Revire appeared thoughtful for that before speaking up. In the waking world, we have perhaps been dreamwalking for around an hour now. not all that long, to be honest. However, your mind and memories have been warped due to your emotional duress. We've been wandering for close to 3 months now, exploring the interconnected paths and corridors through your memories and dreamscape to try and find you as you are now. Again, not all that long for someone as experienced as I am, though Rita is not as experienced. But don't worry, I've been ensuring the strain has not been as taxing as it could have been for her, and if you're able to face this memory of yours, we should be able to exit and wake up safely.
Ah, I see. So, no pressure, I say softly before looking over at Rita. Sorry about all of this.
Despite her irritated and tired expression, Rita manages to flash a small smile. Don't worry about it. It was my choice to explore your memories, and I knew the risks involved with dreamwalking. It may have been easier to explore your memories in the way you were doing it now, but it was also a more dangerous endeavor. This method is much safer, though generally more difficult to maintain. She then chuckled softly as she rubbed her neck. Though I think I'm done with dreamwalking for a long while after this. I've had my fill for now, she mused tiredly.
Okay. I think I'm ready now.
Hesitating another moment, I take the door by the handle and step into the darkness within. My eyes open to the view of a serene lake, the familiar scent of pine hitting my nose once more as I sigh it softly. Turning to look to my left, I see my beloved Skylar, her head resting on my shoulder as we sit at the roots of a tree, her fingers interlocking with mine as we sit in silence. In her other hand was an open bottle of water with only a single drink taken from it. One last drink. I look to my right hand, and I can still feel the warmth of her breath against my palm. The white residue of those old pills linger on my skin. We knew they still worked, despite their expiration date. Of course they still worked. Why did they have to work? No. I'm glad they still worked, at least for her sake. This way was preferable to the alternative. Even if I had gotten more time with her, that wouldn't have been any sort of life for her to struggle through. How? She's been struggling for months without telling me. At least this way, we can share one last moment. I can feel her breathing start to slow. Her hand slacken mine as I only tighten my grip. The minutes drag into eternity as I close my eyes and listen to every single breath she makes, until it becomes one slow exhale. My cheeks start to burn as my vision blurs, my chest aching as I struggle to take a breath. It feels as if part of my heart is just gone, and the world is all the darker for it. I don't think I can go on. I don't think I want to go on in a world without her. My eyes close as I reach behind me, a familiar weight in my hand as I clench my fingers around the grip. My mouth opens, and I can taste the tang of metal on my tongue. It would be so easy. It would be so easy to join her and be done with this awful world. To finally rest and end my struggles. My hands shake, and the weight almost becomes unbearable. I can't do it. I'm too much of a coward to do it. The taste of metal leaves my mouth as I cast the weight away into the dirt. My arms go around the still warm figure of my beloved, my chin resting on the top of her head as she limply accepted my embrace. She wanted me to live. She told me as much. She was so selfish for that request, and I was so ready to follow her. But she told me that I still have a life to live and asked me to be patient before joining her on the other side. But I guess she's still going to have to wait a while longer now. Why? Why didn't you end it? For what reason do you keep living despite the world you live in? There's that feminine voice again. I don't remember hearing that voice last time, but my mouth opens to reply to her.
It's because she asked me to. She made me promise not to follow her, and I hate her for it. Just because people are waiting for me back home. Just because someone is expecting me to return. But what do I care? I don't owe them anything. But I don't care about anything anymore now that she won't be here waiting for me. But I'm too much of a coward to break a promise. To go back on my word no matter how desperately I want to. I see. I'll continue to monitor your progress, candidate. With that, the feminine voice faded, and I could feel myself forgetting about even speaking in that moment. Odd. Seconds later, I can hear the grass crunching and my hand coming to my shoulder as Revia spoke.
But Maury, your mind is settled. I'm sorry you had to live through this again, but we can leave now.
I nodded tenderly, my arms still draped around my beloved. As I moved to stand, I saw myself still sitting under that tree, mourning her in unbearable silence. Looking back over to Revire, I feel the weight of my heart start to lift, if only just a little. Say, did you hear a voice just now? I heard it again, like that time back at the campsite. Revire looked concerned for me, but adopted a thoughtful expression as I mentioned that voice again. She glanced over at Rita, who stood nearby, and she just shrugged.
No, I don't think so. It was just you here now.
I also heard myself talking again, but I think you're right. I don't remember talking to anyone last time I was here. I took another look behind me, spotting the memory of myself locked in one last embrace with Skylar. It's not important right now. I would like to move on from this place, I asked, doing my best to hide the tightness in my throat as I looked back at Revire. She bobbed her head once, and she held out her hand, a new door materializing before us.
Yes, I think it's about time that we all wake up now.
End of chapter.
I would just quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: DragonSoup, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Sevaren Serberous, Red Panda 121, Leslie 517, Bushmaster 177, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Sans the Skeleton, Lightjock, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Lord Azrekahl. Thank you very much.